Hey partner, I'm Barry, your pocket crew chief, the very first AI-powered mechanic for sim racing. Got a car that's a little loose or tight? Just tell me how it's handling, and I'll whip up instant setup recommendations just for you. Want me to get even more precise? Snap a picture of your setup, and I'll fine-tune it to perfection. And hey, I'm not just about giving orders. I'll explain why every adjustment matters, so you can really understand your ride. I'll even teach you the science behind the setup. Ever wondered why the track bar is so important? I've got the answer. With Pocket Crew Chief, I'll make you smarter, faster, and race ready. So what are we waiting for? Let's build to win.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome into Wednesday night, the Undercut and Overheard podcast truck series here on in the Slingshot Racing League. This is the Kyle Busch Classic, a rough weekend for everyone in the racing world, in the racing community, as we lost a legend of motorsport in Kyle Busch, honoring his memory here tonight in the truck series with this race so aptly named after him. Coming to you from Talladega. We go from Dover last week to Talladega this week. Quite the stark contrast in track size and racing technique. Sure, we are in for a good one here tonight. We'll pull up some stories, chit-chat just a little bit. Myself, Scott Shive, Colby Jordan up here, Colby behind the keys. Scott, tell me a little bit about these storylines here tonight from Talladega. I feel like we talk a lot about, you know, is it best to push up, get that track position, or lay back? What do you think?
Well, I think it's best to do one or the other. I think if you're not deciding, if you're trying to stay in the middle, I think that is the absolute worst spot to be. I think you either want to be leading this thing or up front within the first four, or you want to be all the way at the back, because I feel like the middle area of the pack is just the absolute worst place to be. And then finding a partner. You have got to have teammates when working together at Talladega, at Daytona, and obviously at Talladega, it's going to be just a little bit longer and a little bit faster with that extra bit of mileage we get from the 2.66 mile speedway, so you cannot do this dance alone.
It's all about commitment, whether it's to your partner or to your strategy, and it's also going to take a little bit of luck here tonight, avoiding the big one here at Talladega. Watching that bump draft. The bump draft can often cause the big one. So really being comfortable with those around you. I feel like I say it a lot when we come to these super speedway tracks here in this league. These drivers always race one another, with the utmost respect. The mistakes that happen are never intentional, but tough to give a push or take a push at 180-ish miles an hour in these trucks with some different square shaped front ends and rear ends here. But should make for some great racing here tonight. We'll take a quick look at the point standings as we come here to Talladega. Braxton DeWeese still leading in the points as of now. Aaron Smith just 1 point out. Jimmy Moore in the top 3. Johnny Rapp, big win last week at Dover, pushes himself up into 4th. And Josh Ward rounds out the top 5 in points. I know we still got a little ways to go here, Scott, so some great opportunities for drivers to score points and put themselves in a championship position.
Well, you and I were checking it tonight, and after tonight, we'll be halfway through the season. Of course, Knoxville a couple of weeks ago was just a fun little exhibition race, so we're now halfway through. Once we wrap up this race, we'll all go all the way until we crown a champion at Homestead, Miami at the beginning of July. But tonight, I think you mentioned it with the differences in the bumpers and things like that. We talked about drivers not being here last week. We talked about, it was Aaron Smith that wasn't here last week, so Braxton DeWeese was able to step up within the points. But, looking forward, you got to be here for the rest of the races, because if you want to be in that title contention, you got to be here for the rest of the season, because we're already halfway done after tonight.
Yeah, it's coming up in a hurry, and green flag's coming up in a hurry here as well. We're going to cut to a quick break, and we will be back here shortly.
Watch out for the third place car, Kyle Busch. He's looking.
Hamlin ahead. They touch. They touch. There goes Kyle. Hamlin got on the wall. Hamlin spins down the racetrack, and Kyle Busch wins in California.
I thought they'd be nice to each other.
The 2015 Cup Series champion. And here comes the Candyman. 52nd career Cup victory for Kyle Busch, Toyota, and Joe Gibbs Racing.
Get out the broom.
Kyle Busch is going to add his name to the illustrious list of Brickyard 400 winners.
And then I just got in the corner a little too hot and just got up into the fence a little bit. And then, 2-3 laps later, it blew out.
For these guys, it was actually a broken A-arm that had them in the evening from the...
Awesome here. Thank you, boys.
Kyle, how do you feel about the way you were penalized for what happened out there?
All right, welcome back in, ladies and gentlemen, as we get ready. Cars on the grid. We'll run you through the starting order here. Chris Smith on the pole here tonight, lining up side by side with Greg O'Berry in the number 4 truck. Row number 2, it's Scotty Sobczak and Braxton DeWeese side by side. We saw some good action from Scotty and Braxton at Dover, but a new style of racing here tonight at Talladega. Row number 3, Rod Jones, Ellis Thomas. Row number 4, it's Evan Pienta in that Hot Wheels machine, lining up inside of Robert Brobst. And Ryan Hinkle, Chase Barry round out the 5th row.
Well, behind them, it'll be the 23 of Zachary Mitchell alongside John Anthony in the number 22. Then in row 7, it'll be Steve Vest in the number 60 with the 16 of Brandon Ayers. Then in row number 8, it'll be Clay Sampson starting in 15th. It'll be Jacob Phillips starting in 16th. Then in 17th, it'll be the 71 of Kenneth Gallman. To his outside, it'll be Brian Brobst. That completes row number 9. And rounding out the top 20 will be Nathan Gentry and last week's winner, Johnny Rapp.
Row 11, it's Randy Gross and James Danforth lining up side by side in a pair of Rams. It's Jimmy Moore, Paul Thomas in row number 12. Row number 13, it's Kenneth Gallman and Brad Compton side by side. Row 14, it's Patrick O'Toole and Tom Wendt. And that'll round out the field for us here as we've got trucks pacing up around the high banks and up onto the backstretch here. I think we're in for a good night of racing here, Scott. I mean, Talladega, always one of those tracks that brings the excitement. Very selfishly, one of my favorite races to call. I love calling all of them, but Talladega always adds that little bit of extra heart rate when you get rolling.
It's definitely easy for the heart rate to get high and the hands to shake a little bit. You got to hold a pretty wheel, though, when you're in that race truck tonight, because, boy, it can get squirrely really easy. We talk about these trucks having a lot of downforce with their design, the air dropping off over the roof and slamming onto that rear spoiler. Really can get a lot of downforce in the rears, but it's also so easy. When a driver taps you from behind, well, that downforce can go away fairly quickly. It's really easy to get loose. Something that we want to look for tonight, that sometimes you might be pedal down, somebody may give you a tap, and that air over your spoiler can take a massive change, and you might just not be ready.
Yeah, there's just so many elements that are going to come into play here in these trucks at this track. They'll make you or they'll break you, but there's only one way to find out, and that's why we go racing. The pace car is off. It's Chris Smith and Greg O'Berry leading us up into the restart zone. A little bit of back and forth there at the rear of the pack as we get lined up. Green flag is out and away we go. Chris Smith, Greg O'Berry taking us up through the gears here as we come across the start-finish line. Everybody going to take a moment to get up to speed. Takes about a lap and a half, 2 laps here just to get these trucks up to cruising altitude as we see drivers, before we start to see drivers start to zig and zag and set themselves up for moves, get close to teammates, and really start to build out what their strategy is going to be over the course of this 69-lap race here tonight.
Yeah, I think what you were seeing there was, I believe it was Chase Berry in the 46. He had gotten an end-of-line penalty, and I believe it was because he was having internet connection issues. He's now out of the session for now. We'll hope that he can connect back quickly, because Berry, he was a contender in the top 10 last week at Dover. But again, we've talked about the big difference in going from Dover to here in Talladega, Alabama, and we're already 3 wide.
Yeah, 3 wide. Braxton DeWeese to the front, had a great run off the bumper of O'Berry, used it to cut down as soon as he had the chance and get in front of Chris Smith now, who's pushing that 8 truck. Braxton DeWeese and the front of the field, 2 things that go together often here on Wednesday nights. As we see that 3rd row developing, it's an interesting strategy, kind of a long play, as they're going to need to get some good aero here. Everybody going to have to get nose to tail to get a run on that outside, but not quite what we're looking for, or what they're looking for just yet, as a little bit of traffic, a little bit of side drafting. That middle lane going to have a little bit of a longer tail, and they're going to get a good push here. 38, Ellis Thomas up now, pushing O'Berry just a nose length out to the lead.
They are moving forward bit by bit. Ellis Thomas helping out the 4 of O'Berry. This is what we love to see up at the front of the pack. These race trucks pushing each other into the corners. One lane moves up, one goes back. One back up, one back. But we're seeming fairly calm up here within the first 4 rows. But then it is that outside line being led back by the 16 of Brandon Ayers. He's trying to get something done in that Ram machine. Now driver, that is Pienta, pulls up in front of him, 55 of Evan Pienta. Now he pulls back down, wants to stay in that middle lane.
It's funny how you can hear the throttle changes as drivers pull in and out from in front of one another or behind the other. Just the aero here just makes such a difference in what kind of throttle you want to run and just how hard you have to push your truck to gain that track position. As we see Ayers just trying to stay door to door now with Pienta, who slid down into that middle line, but they have a little bit of a run on the outside here coming. That's the lane I'm going to be keeping my eye on here, Scott. I think. Whoa, zigging and zagging. Almost tagging the wall. Good car control there. That's awesome.
That was Jacob Phillips. He's been a big help in pushing that third lane closer and closer to the front, but it was a big moment for here. Now look at Robert Probst. He's going to move up into that outside lane. They've got a big run coming this time, and that inside middle line, they're going to have less momentum. Here comes Robert Probst.
Trains coming down the tracks. Either you're getting on the end of the line or you're getting up out of the way. It's Chris Smith, though, who's going to try to make something happen here at the front. He's going to pull out from behind Braxton DeWeese. He sees it coming. He wants to try to get up to that high line maybe, or help that middle lane get a little bit of a better run, as he wants to get out here and control the field right now, and he is up in the lead.
Well, and Sobczak followed him, and now he won't fall him this time. Sobczak will jump down low. Meanwhile, O'Barry will stick with the 28 of Chris Smith. Allows him to stay out front in that middle lane. Robert Probst up on the high side, third lane towards the outside wall. They're falling back just a little bit. Here comes Sobczak. He's getting a great push from Ellis Thomas. Thomas being a great pusher man already.
Ellis Thomas very happy with where he is right now, sitting bumper to bumper on that bottom line, pushing the 97 of Scotty Sobczak, trying to make something work here, as these guys just using the draft, trying to get a little bit of a run, making it work, a little bit of zigging and zagging throughout, but that is what makes racing here at Talladega so much fun, especially in these trucks. The O'Barry now sliding up to the high side, said, okay, I've had enough of pushing Chris Smith around here. I'm going to come up here and lead across the stripe, and he completes the pass around the outside. What a run there by O'Barry. Thought maybe for a moment he would have hung back there and took the push from Robert Probst. Nope, he's going to come down and be pushed by the car he was just pushing as they head down the backstretch. Top line getting a run.
That could have been a lot worse for Chris Smith. He was able to fall back in line, second row of that middle line, but Robert Probst and Brandon Ayers, wow, they are absolutely moving, and them two are going to move down into that middle lane. Oh, there's a little bit of contact between O'Barry and the other driver, the 56 on the outside. That's Phillips. Oh, that almost was bad.
Yeah, Phillips really having to get up on the wheel here now. Is doing his best on that third line. Now he's getting a little bit of a door slam and a door jam there on the outside as they're trying to make it all work. The aero in these trucks, like you said, so much downforce. They get a little squirrely, just try to hang on to it and make it all work with the drivers around you. As you see Probst getting that big push from O'Barry. Sobczak now working with the 16. That's Brandon Ayers on the bottom. It's Chris Smith going to peek out to the outside now on that top line to that third lane. Ellis Thomas saw a little daylight on the bottom. Thought better of making it 4 wide. He slips back in behind Sobczak as they're going to continue a good run of speed here on that line. But keep your eyes open. Chris Smith being pushed around by Evan Pienta. They're getting a good run here. They've got the 88 of Danforth coming into the picture behind them. At the front, though, that's Sobczak trying to get up to the top line. Can't quite close the door. He's going to get pushed back down into the middle lane as Chris Smith. He was not clear of Chris Smith. That top line going to try to do everything they can. Sobczak getting a big push. Oh, man.
Sobczak is just wiggling around. It is so nerve-wracking. The same was with Robert Probst being pushed by O'Barry. And oh, my goodness, O'Barry nearly clipped the left rear of Robert Probst. That could have been so terrible, and yet we're okay. We're still racing. Scotty Sobczak holds it. He now gets that clear up in front of the 28 of Chris Smith. That outside line went from 0 to hero.
Absolutely unbelievable run here as we've continued up to the front. I mean, Chris Smith, though, looks like the fastest truck on track, just taking the runs, getting everything that he can. Smith now up to the top again. Sobczak fades back to the bottom, slower there. Gets a big shot from O'Barry as O'Barry trying to just hit him square. That top lane really getting by and around now. Chris Smith going to have the opportunity. Does he stay up there with Pienta? Are they going to work together? Are they going to try to slide down and use the run from one of these other lanes? I'll tell you what, I wouldn't touch a thing. These boys are getting out and getting away. This top line, you see Danforth now clear of the front two rows as well, and Phillips in short order going to be side by side, 3 wide there on that 4th row.
I think a lot of these drivers, we mentioned, do you want to go easy? Do you want to stay in the back? Or do you want to get after it and push up to the front? And a lot of these drivers sitting around the 8th position or back, 8th through probably 20th, are saying, I would rather be at the back or the front, but not where I am currently sitting. I think that's why we're seeing so much movement. I think that's why we saw the outside lane be developed so quickly as drivers said, all right, I want to go ahead and start making some moves, get up to the front, and I want to hold that position. Scotty Sobczak has done a great job, as well as Chris Smith. They have been 2 that have been at the front for most of this race since they got up here. Obviously, Smith started up on the front, but a lot of other players have come and gone.
Yeah, and we're going to see this rinse, wash, and repeat, I think, of drivers who get to the front, decide it's too much, step back a little bit. The track position game, always one that matters tenfold here, as we see Pienta now with the power move with Danforth to the bottom. They're going to line up in front of Robert Bropes. Chris Smith getting the rough end of that deal, as he's going to have to back it up to Scotty Sobczak in that middle lane. Sobczak trying to give him a good push there as he was dropping back. And this bottom line now dominant. It's amazing at Talladega just how quickly fortunes can change, what lines got to run and what lines falling back. And that group from the top sliding on down to the bottom. We'll see who's ready to take a bite out of some track position here next. We see that's, believe that's Ellis Thomas there. Yes, it is, leading that 2nd lane, along with a handful of other drivers. Wouldn't be surprised if you see them get a good run here in the next couple of turns.
I think it is so crazy how it can change. I mean, not even lap to lap, but corner to corner. So many moves being made and drivers going from the back to the front and more quickly from the front to the back. It's so easy to get shuffled out of line and just be, you could have been in 1st, 2nd, or 3rd, and then you're back in 20th. It's so easy when you get out of the draft to just fall right back. That's how players make moves. That's how drivers are able to slip people out of line, shuffle them out of the pack, and move up row by row, spot by spot. That's what a lot of these drivers have come up. That's what Robert Bropes did. He jumped up to the high side, shuffled some people out. I would say the same for James Danforth. Started back in 22nd. He's up to 2nd, up 19 positions now.
19 spots is a lot of real estate to make up, and a lot of drivers looking to replicate that type of success. Ellis Thomas now getting a nose ahead of Pienta on the outside, working with Chris Smith back there. The front 4, front 5, you could throw a blanket over them right now here. So we come around lap number 13 this next time by. Still really early on in this one. I don't know, Scott. I think I'd be one of the more conservative drivers right now. I like where I see Henkel back there in 14th. I like where I see Mitchell back there in 15th. I think there's something to just kind of letting the race come to you and unfold. Keeping my eye on that number 7 truck as well. That's Aaron Smith back with us this week after being absent from Dover. He ran the Creator Series here earlier tonight. Came home with a P2 finish in a hot last handful of laps as he was going for the win. We were cheering you on from home here, Aaron, but he's managing his race up there on the top line, as well as a lot of these other drivers just looking for that little bit of an edge.
For a little bit of an edge. That's exactly what these drivers will need. I think you said it. It's early on in this race, and so I was thinking when we were getting everybody shuffling out to the bottom that we may see the 3 wide end, and then the minute that I thought it was going to calm down a little bit, well, that outside line rung back to life. And so drivers are saying, I still want to try to make moves, still want to get to the front. Look at this, Ellis Thomas to the lead. Big push from Chris Smith. Scotty Sobczak right behind them. I don't think there's any calmness in this pack. Now, there's a lot of give and take and respect between this pack. I think we're seeing a lot of that. Moves are being made, but there's not big, bold moves being made yet. I don't think we'll see that until we get to the near.
Oh, we've got a contact!
We're just saying it. Big wreck. Oh, and caution is out. Oh, just as we were talking about it, commentators jinx.
We got him with the commentator's curse there. Tom Waite Unfortunately, in that 82, we got a couple of meatballs out here on the track as well for these drivers. We'll get a look at it here on the replay. You see the 82 just gets a little slippery up there on top, not quite able to hang on to it, just gets loose and collects a handful along with him, including the 7 of Aaron Smith. That's P2 in the points. A lot of damage, a lot of trucks heading down pit road, I'd imagine, here under caution.
Yeah, we were just mentioning it. Zachary Mitchell, he also just got a bad piece of that. Look, 23 is just going to get a door tag from Aaron Smith, and nowhere for him really to go. He was riding in line right in the middle. Aaron Smith was trying to get down low from that third lane. But it all came from a little bit of a bad push into turn 3 from Brian Probst. 82. That really hurts for Tom Wendt. He had started all the way in the back. He was moving up. He was inside of the top 20 now, but they will have to go to pit road and fix some of that damage, which will take a while. Now, the good news is for all these drivers, you got plenty of time to be able to come into the pit lane, take damage, and get out before you go a lap down.
Yeah, there is opportunity to get yourself fixed up enough to keep yourself involved in this race, depending on how much damage some of these drivers have. Just keep it rolling, stay out on the track, come down pit road as often as makes sense. Just because this track is so big, I mean, you get the opportunity to do some things that, you know, if this was your situation at a track like Dover last week, you'd be condemned to a much worse fate. So interesting to see how drivers will manage this damage. Nobody really ever out of this thing until, you know, they got to pull it up onto the truck. But we'll see trucks coming down pit road here. Ellis Thomas leads the pack. Evan Pienta, Chris Smith, James Danforth, Scotty Sobczak, top 5 here onto pit road, along with everyone else.
Really important not to slide the box here. Under caution, you can lose the most time. Of course, if we were under green, you want to stay with your pack, but under caution, it's so easy. If you're a second longer, you could lose 3-4 spots easy. So you want to get in that box nice and cleanly. I learned this recently, Sal. The closer you are to the center of the box, the shorter amount of time that you'll be in the pits. iRacing will swing it a little bit each way, as we see that Chris Smith got out first before Ellis Thomas. He came in second. The closer you are to the center of that box, the faster time iRacing will give your pit crew.
That's a good little tidbit of information. I did not know that was something that played a factor on
That's
pit
why
road.
we see those little bit of difference. It's about a 3-second margin. Under that 3 seconds is absolutely the absolute best time you can get, and the 3 seconds above it is the slowest pit stop you can get if you don't make any mistakes.
All right, a little bit of another way to add some additional pressure from the devs at iRacing, just to make sure you're really staying on your pit stop game. And at tracks like Talladega, it really compounds and makes a difference as you're trying to battle, especially on the green flag stops. But trying to stay with teammates and make things work here. Under yellow, though, the battle off pit road, Patrick O'Toole in that 44. O'Toole had been riding around. I noticed that beautiful M&M scheme honoring Kyle Busch. Riding around, kind of just hanging back, saving some fuel. He elected to stay out here, did not come down pit road. Able to now take the lead here as we are coming off the caution here in just a couple of laps.
Well, and you're gonna need a stop. You cannot make it all the way in this race. Scotty Sobczak, he's in the grass. Did you see that? Scotty Sobczak was in the grass at a 4. He's able to get back going, but that was
darted down there real quick. Had to cool the tires off for a second. I don't know.
I gotta wonder if there was maybe some checking up in the back of the field right there, and Sobczak may have gotten a tap from behind that pushed him down the apron. But luckily for Sobczak, didn't look like any damage or anything like that, so he's all good.
Yeah, no harm, no foul. Truck's still in one piece.
Truck's still in one piece. I was going to say, just another little tidbit about iRacing, if you didn't know this, there's like a 1 in 1 million chance in every iRacing session that you join that you have an engine failure. I've never seen it happen, but there is a 1 in like 1 million chance of engine failure of no causation.
That would be our luck to find that here tonight at Talladega. You're going to find some engine failures maybe, but I don't know about at random.
Oh, I know. Well, that's the thing. I've never ever seen it happen, but it is. It's like a 1 in 1 million chance of you're just going along, 0 damage, and boom.
Yeah, that's definitely a part of it to think about, though, as we see long green flag runs maybe develop. How much heat can they get underneath and then riding so close to the cars and the trucks in front of them, packing some air, not getting the cooling they need. I haven't seen a truck explode at Talladega in a long time, so be interesting to see if that becomes a factor. But 1 in a million. Hopefully, we don't commentate or curse our way into something like that again here tonight.
That'd be really, really difficult. Yeah, you made a great mention, though, with talking about keeping the nose of the truck up close to the tailgate of another. You got to peek out to get some air on the nose of that truck to make sure those engine temps do not get too high, because we're revving at over 9,000 RPM at every single second around this lap. That is a lot on an engine. It has to be properly cooled. If not, you know, these race engines, they're so fine-tuned to the millimeters and milliseconds and temperatures, all those things, that the minute, what's the smallest measurement of temperature? Whatever that is, the smallest temperature of that's how fine-tuned these truck engines are. So you got to make sure to keep them nice and cool, Sal.
Yeah, absolutely. Keep it calm, cool, collected, and going to be just as important for the engines as it is for the drivers behind the wheel. Here at Talladega, as we see O'Toole and Smith. The pace car is off. It'll bring us around to lap number 18. We'll observe a lap of silence for Kyle Busch here as these trucks come back around. Couldn't be a more fitting situation with Patrick O'Toole and Chris Smith up there in the front with the Kellogg's and the M&M scheme here. Back underway and green here at Talladega. Big jump there for the 44. Big out of line, big out of shape there. 44 truck off of turn number 2. Not quite able to hang in there as we saw a little bit of bumping. Shot down onto the apron on the backstretch. Floated back to the rear of the field here and rejoined the pack. That's sometimes how quick, fate can turn on you here at Talladega. But it's Chris Smith, Scotty Sobczak, Greg O'Berry on that top line. Brandon Ayers working on the bottom right now. There's Gallman jumping down out of line to the bottom to give that 16 truck a push. Everybody just sticking their nose out, trying to make something work. Sobczak now up to the high side. It's going to be Smith, left out in no man's land just a little. Has enough room to get down to the bottom and catch that bottom line. Is that top line coming with a full head of steam.
Top line, full head of steam. A lot of pushers up on that outside lane. Nathan Gentry, 4th car in line. Whoa, big move from a car a little bit farther back. That was the 12. That was Jimmy Moore. That was a big, big move in that PPG paint scheme. But hey, the hole was there, and he was able to make it work and keep it together. But boy, what a move it was. And look at this, more moves, more shuffling up at the front. That is a 91 of Bri Jones. Scotty Sobczak pulls down to block it. That leaves O'Berry out all on his lonesome for the moment. Will be picked up likely from the drivers behind.
Yeah, keeping a look at a new name up here in the front in the mix here in the top 6. Nathan Gentry has come up from way back to be in the mix up here in these top 6 trucks, top 7 trucks. And that's what we talked about earlier in the broadcast, Scott. It's just the comers and goers at Talladega. You usually get a core group that once they get track position, stay up front. But as I say it, you look down at the timing scoring, and there's Rye Jones now up at the front that had been a little bit more conservative earlier on in this race. Saw the pit stop as an opportunity to get up on it and go. And here he is now leading that bottom line, trying to do battle with Scotty Sobczak there for the lead.
Well, you mentioned Nathan Gentry. He's one of those drivers that did not come into the pits that last time, so he did stay out. He elected to stay out, still on that 21-lap stint. So he will have to come into pit lane, and a lot of those drivers may be making a bit of a gamble that we get another caution at some point, and maybe at that point they could bolt on some tires. They would already be at the rear of the field, and maybe that would give them a little bit of a handling edge. You talked about, Sal, looking for that edge. Well, maybe pitting later and getting some tires and having a little bit extra in the handling bucket would be that edge.
Every edge you can get here, it matters. It counts, as we see drivers now pushing hard. You see Rod Jones still just about a half a car, truck length out in front. That third lane on the top developing into something that could be really explosive here in just a handful of laps. Who was that? That was the 4 of O'Barry jumping out of line behind Chris Smith to go up to the high side. That top lane always carries a lot of momentum. Ayers now looking to try to make a move. Ayers now on the bottom with Rod Jones. It's like spotting raccoons out here tonight, Scott. Everybody moving and shaking. They're getting all over.
Could not be a spotter. Not especially maybe for any other racetrack, but a super speedway, this takes so much more talent, not just behind the wheel, but up on the spotter stand. I could not do it. There's so much going on. There's so many things to be called out. It is just something that requires an extreme amount of skill, an impressive amount of skill, and I don't think it gets enough recognition.
No, save the spotters. Spotters are a rare breed in this industry, and they're equally important. I'll take my commission check from Freddie Kraft for defending the spotters, I think, here on the broadcast tonight. But they are a crucial role. They play a crucial role, and it's important. You know, as you see these trucks run so tight, side by side by side, the information that has to be relayed to the drivers, you know, as they're trying to get around here and just keep it in one piece. You know, some of these drivers, you're looking straight ahead. You can't always see what's in your blind spots or in your mirrors, and that's where that spotter comes in and makes your life a whole lot easier.
I think we're finally seeing a bit of chillax, a bit of hanging out, and drivers, as we see, a little bit of a move to the top side. Jacob Phillips looking outside in that number 56, and we're going to gather up that third line once again. Phillips is going to lose it. There's not many people out there, and he is going to get shuffled out real quickly. Look at how far back Phillips is going to fall.
Yeah, that's the sucker hole up there on the top lane right now. He's going to try to slide his way back in toward the rear of the field. He's back there with O'Barry and a handful of other drivers that we had seen running up there toward the front. Just pushing your luck a little hard sometimes here. But there's always a way. From back to front, from front to back. We're going to see drivers make moves, big moves all night, and if they take every run they can get, should make for a great finish here. As we're only on lap 25. We've got a whole race ahead of us still. Like you said, just riding around, figuring it out.
You say we've got a whole race ahead of us. I mean, in not a little bit, about 9 laps from now, we'll be at halfway. So this race, with the one caution, we're clicking them off here. And as we see Robert Brobst making another move for the front, outside of Rye Jones in the 91, Brobst in the 5. And I would say I think this is the calmest we've been. For a second, we had about 6 cars on the bottom line, all out on their own. Now we're seeing double wide once again, and that third lane is beginning to form. So, again, I was going to say I think we're getting calmed down. And once we do that, third line has emerged.
Yeah, that second line here, that 7 truck, Sampson pushing the 5 of Robert Brobst. From behind now, Sobczak up to that top line. I mean, it's incredible how we look down the timing scoring here. You know, a guy pushing somebody on the top line's in 10th place. It feels like they're all running for 3rd or 4th, just door to door to door, 3 wide. We've been 3 wide for a lot of this race through long parts of this green flag run as they've been able to get some of these runs put together. A little bit of bunching up back here toward the rear of the field. I'm getting a look at Scotty Sobczak's rear bumper. That thing is pushed in on the rear. Interesting as we see, Sampson down to the bottom with Brobst. They dive down in front of the leaders there through the tri-oval. Got a good run of speed, said, okay, we've had enough. And you see the 4 of O'Barry back up to the front. I believe that's Jimmy Moore there behind him. Brandon Ayers pushing. Danforth in tow, trying to get sucked up to the back of that truck here as they continue to race 3 wide from Talladega. It'd be interesting to see just how much momentum these trucks have as they come through turns 3 and 4. See Brobst again, just trying to hang on there. Everybody shuffling back and forth. O'Berry now by a half a truck. But they're going to move out from behind him. I think we're going to get a lot of lead changes here tonight.
A lot of lead changes, and my computer crashed for just a second. We're back, and Rye Jones went from the lead. Well, he's in 6th, and he was falling back farther than that. Robert Brobst now on the bottom. There's O'Berry. We're 3 wide for the lead.
3 wide for the lead. They'll find anywhere to go 3 wide, it feels like, here tonight. And once that top line can get it working, they are not afraid to drive 3 wide next to each other. I mean, I'll tell you what, if I was out here in a race not knowing the drivers around me, I would have a pit in my stomach knowing that I'd be 3 wide. But these guys every single week really run so strong here. A lot of good drivers with a lot of great talent. As we see that top line, man, it's getting a little slippery. I think Danforth caught a little bit, left a little of that green paint up there on the walls. He was coming through 3 and 4. It sure was close. As you see that line develop, they are getting a big run. Committed to that line, though. There's plenty of real estate to move down, but everybody just biding their time and seeing what they can make work as they're searching around for speed here as we're on lap 29 of 69, 40 laps. As we go
and
on
sometimes
through the
drivers, they feel more confident up in that upper groove around here at Talladega. Just you put less wheel into it. It's a lot easier on the handling. You don't have to less allowance for the car to get loose up under you. Now as we see them, Brendan Ayers, they're starting to come down. Just as I'm saying, I swear, I keep saying things tonight, and the drivers, I think they're listening to me, and I think they want to make me wrong in every aspect. We saw that O'Berry, he'd been up the front within the top 5 for pretty much most of this race. Once that second line, middle line dissolved, him and the 12 of Jimmy Moore behind him kind of fell back. Now they're back in line, stacked behind 3 trucks. That'll allow O'Berry to make some moves. He's going to give a big shot to Ellis Thomas.
Ellis Thomas, you're right, getting a big run up there on the outside. They're going to have some work to do here as that bottom line is taking off and getting a little bit of a run now. You see that top line starting to form up. We're on board here with Ellis Thomas. This is a great view of just what we were talking about. Trying to put a little bit less wheel in it up against the wall. Get comfortable up there, get a big run of speed. You can get runs off the exits, but you're going to need the car count to make it work. We see Jimmy Moore now trying to maybe jump up to the top, give him a little bit of a draft to catch up. It's interesting always to see the bobbing and weaving that happens and the way that these drivers choose to develop their runs, especially through the tri-oval. But we'll keep tabs on that third line, but it's battles at the front right now as that bottom line is getting way out and away. Everybody gonna have to work together. That's always a tough thing to get done here. Working together, even with drivers that aren't your teammates, to just make sure you don't get gapped out and left in the dust.
And working together, it can be difficult, but you definitely, like we said, you cannot be alone here, because at the end of the night, you will be hung out. If it comes down to you and somebody else, well, they're going to choose you. Sometimes even teammates. When it comes down to the last lap, all bets are off. So it's nice to be able to have somebody to help you to get to the front. But even when we get with teammates at the last lap, it might be, all right, well, jump ship, every man for themselves.
Yeah, it's a drag race at the end. That's always the cardinal rule, right? You push your teammate, or you're pushed by your teammate all the way up until the final corner, and then it's a free-for-all to see who can get the job done. I'm sure we'll see some of that as we continue on here tonight. As we see Robert Brobst still leading this field. Sampson.
He's coming up on his brother, Brian Brobst, in the 11 with damage from the first and only incident. He's going to go a lap down. So brother passes brother, but it's not for position. It's for who's on the lead lap and who's not.
And always a classy move there. Moving down out of the way, not being a factor on the backstretch. Slides back into the field, lets the racing continue at the front just as nature intended. Uninterrupted at 180 mile an hour here. The Brobst brothers, always talented especially at these super speedways, man. They run great runs. The 44 coming down pit road had stayed out the first time, was in the lead early, got shuffled out there on lap 18.
You know, one thing I can think about for O'Toole is actually staying out for that lap 18 to lead that lap in our tribute to Kyle Busch. That's one of the things I can think about. It may not have been a strategy call at all. It may have just been him saying, I want to go out and lead and be up front for lap 18 to honor KB, and he did that, and at the sacrifice possibly of his own race. We might see more of those other drivers that did stay out coming into the pits this time, as we got big moves. Braxton DeWeese, Rye Jones, they made their way up on that second groove. Now they jump down in front of Robert Probst. O'Barry, he was back in 11th last time we checked in on him. Well, he's back up to 4th.
Everybody making the best of the moves that they have while they have the time to still make them. Rye Jones, big push. Braxton DeWeese up at the front. We've seen a whole cast of characters make their presence known here over the first 34 laps, and Braxton DeWeese being up front. He started up toward the front here to begin tonight at Talladega, and back to the front he goes, as we'll see that 44 truck come out of the pits, pull way up to the high side, stay out of everybody's way. See Chris Smith there move down toward the rear of the field, make sure it all works, and everybody get up and around and continue on here at Talladega.
Everybody's good. Man, you talked about buying whatever car, whatever truck has the most paint schemes. We've got a lot of great paint schemes within this field.
A lot of good-looking cars here, week over week. Some great Kyle Busch tributes here tonight. The M&M's truck with the Beechcraft on the side. We've got a lot of good-looking pieces out there. Rod Jones, purple race truck. Always good to see a purple car on track. Evan Pienta always puts on a good scheme. I would hope he would put on a good scheme. Evan Pienta, designing a lot of the schemes for the field here. Really been a fan of that 28 scheme though for Chris Smith. That Kellogg's throwback to Kyle Busch. Just everywhere you look around, always a good scheme to catch your eye here in the Slingshot Racing League on Wednesday night.
It is really cool. I say it when I'm announcing at South Boston. I would say it anywhere. I love colors, and I love beautiful trucks. I love beautiful race cars, and these are emblematic of that statement. So DeWeese, we saw him leading a little bit at Dover. We saw him go from the back to the front about 3 separate times and help himself into the top 10, and he's finally back up to the front, but it's the first time we've seen him up front within these trucks at Talladega. Evan Pienta, we were just talking about him. He jumped up to the third line to try to start it with the 88 of Danforth. But really, we're solo for about the first 4 cars in this bottom row.
Yeah, everybody's starting to get comfortable on the bottom. That second lane up getting a run here a little further back in the pack. That's O'Barry with Jimmy Moore and Chris Smith trying to fight back here, take a bite out of the top 5 or 6, as O'Barry's going to try to work his way around the 22 of John Anthony. And Steve Vest going to take a little bit more of a run here to get to those front 5, as they've created a little bit of a gap between themselves and the rest of the field.
Cars trying to put some gaps. We are seeing a bit of a separation there in the middle of the field. I believe we were talking about Chris Smith just a bit ago, and we're seeing some separation between him and Kenneth Gallman. It's not much. It's about 2/10, maybe even less than that, but we're seeing some separation between those two packs, and if you let that get away quickly, if you don't catch that draft very soon, well, you could easily be a second back and lose that draft entirely. The two of them haven't. Gallman and Smith, they're able to close back up fairly quickly. But behind them, about 4 or 5 cars, there's a lot more separation.
Yeah, from your lips to the driver's ears, it was crazy there. You were saying
I'm telling you, they're listening to me, Sal. Whether to prove me right, prove me wrong, I don't know. But somehow they're listening.
Feeding them information is unbelievable. They're taking it all from us here tonight, one way or the other. So you see everybody close back up. Chris Smith able to make that work. Everybody just staying within arm's reach. They know that they've got some good laps still here to put down tonight. Rod Jones, Braxton DeWeese still out in front here with Robert Probst, Clay Sampson, and Kenneth Gallman. Those top 5 trucks. that second line now getting a big run. It's O'Berry, Jimmy Moore, Johnny Rapp. They're clicking them off one at a time. That second lane getting a better run. We saw some racing out back further. They were 3 wide for a couple more laps than maybe they wanted to be. And a lot of those trucks have now elected to fill in and line up in that second lane. And that's going to give that second lane a better run as they're going to try to... Oh, the 4 of O'Berry. Looked like he wanted to jump down there in front of Sampson for a moment. Maybe just trying to do a little side drafting, but got close as we see that top line making a run. Brobst has jumped out to the top to make him the leader of that high line. O'Berry giving him a big push, and just as we said that the bottom line was getting away, here we are, side by side racing again with Robert Brobst out in the lead.
I think we're seeing that O'Berry is very good about making a lot out of a little. Saw him fall back a little bit when the line dissolved, when it was 3 wide and he was in the middle. Him and Jimmy Moore have been working really well together. They're 2 people that I think are working well together and will probably work together until the end, and they've been able to make moves. Something that is interesting about pack and draft racing is when you talk about partnership, usually there's one driver that's better at leading the line and making the moves, and one driver that's better at pushing. Now, some drivers are good at both either way. I know that I'm good at neither, but there are some drivers that are better at pushing the driver in front of them and others that are better at cutting up through the field and relying on that push.
Yeah, and it is an art form to give the push and take the push. The wheel really starts moving around on you inside of the truck as the truck behind you wants to get rolling and give you that nudge, especially, the timing of where you're giving a push as a pusher. You don't see a lot of trucks push through the corners. That's usually a death sentence in these super speedway races. So you want to make sure you're giving nice square pushes at the right time to the right guy who can hold that wheel and not go broadside in front of a 3 wide race, as we're seeing that shape up right before our eyes here now. Johnny Rapp getting pushed by Chris Smith. You're going to see Brobst jumping down to that bottom. It's going to leave O'Berry little bit hung out as Jimmy Moore's going to try to get a run back up to him and give him a push, but that third lane is so nose to tail packed up. Going to see them get a run here. Johnny Rapp and company on the high line coming through turns 3 and 4.
I'm going to say, we have not mentioned yet once last week's winner, Johnny Rapp from Dover. Here he comes with Chris Smith, but he's going to make a move down to the middle line in front of O'Berry. Chris Smith with the push from Pienta. They'll start to move forward. Here comes O'Berry with a nice push to Rapp. All the while, top 5 trucks in the bottom lane, all on their own, single file.
Yeah, those top 5 just holding that position strong. Staying there, watching everybody else race around them. They're clicking them off one at a time. Johnny Rapp going to go door to door with Gallman. As I'll tell you what, though, I initially I scratched my head. Oh no, they're turning! Oh boy, Ayers, Jimmy Moore make a little bit of contact. There was some action behind them as well. Gonna have to see the replay there. Oh man, caught that one out of the corner of my eye as they were coming through the backstretch. Just a push gone wrong. As we were dissecting the science of the push. Let's see how it happened.
Oh, and it looks like, yeah, Brandon Ayers making a move to the inside. You'll see it here. Watch that 16 truck. He's going to make a move to the inside of the 12, and it just tags the 22. That is a big, big hit for Brandon Ayers.
Into that bottom, into that inside wall. Looked like Jimmy Moore just trying to hold on to his line there, come across the nose of the 16 as they were racing it out. Jimmy ends up skating away pretty scot-free, but Brandon Ayers with some big damage along with a handful of other drivers. Middle back of this pack is going to thin the field just a little bit. Give a couple drivers the opportunity maybe to come down, do some pit stops here. Thought we were going to get some green flag stops, but not quite in the cards for us here tonight. I have to think that drivers will take this opportunity. So we see the 44 come around, the free pass. We'll see drivers come into pit road here, I would imagine, to get things done. Or I'm sorry, Lucky Dog went to Robert Probst that time. Is that true? Is that right?
I believe no. Probst is our leader. I think you're thinking of Ryan Probst, but he's down. Patrick O'Toole, our only driver, 1 lap down. So if it is given, I imagine it would be given to Patrick O'Toole.
Yeah. Okay. Sorry.
He's looking outside. He's looking for it. He's getting ready. Put himself in prime position. And hey, look, with just over 25 laps to go, I mean, Patrick O'Toole's going to be right back in this thing on lead lap. You can make your moves up through the field. He's got plenty of time. So hey, maybe it wasn't all that bad.
Tell you what, that's one of the great things about Talladega is you're never out of it until it's on the truck. I'll tell you what. So be interesting to see how the strategy works for him. I know he got himself in a little trouble earlier on. He's going to come back around, but we've got trucks on pit road right now. Robert Probst leading them down. Everybody jumping to try to hit the center of the box as they're going to want these quick time stops to beat each other off pit road.
What kind of movement there is this time. We saw Chris Smith take the lead last time after he came in second. Small movement from positions. Nobody taking tires, at least that I see for now. It's still fuel only. Look at that, Chris Smith. He is going to go up on the jacks. He's going to take right sides. A lot of these drivers like DeWeese and the 5 of Robert Probst, still fuel only. But some drivers this time it looked like they elected to take some tires.
Interesting play here with the number of laps we have. Talladega, Daytona, Super Speedway is one of those tracks where a lot of drivers feel like they don't need them the whole race in some of these situations. Definitely needed at least one set here tonight to get to the end, at least, with your white fire suit staying white. But splash and dash, a lot of drivers back out here. Rye Jones, the best in class on pit road with that strategy. He's going to lead everybody back out onto the backstretch, but curious to see how the tire decision is going to play in and factor as we get into the closing stages here.
I really would like to see that as well. I mean, it's going to give you, the truck is going to feel better. You're going to be able to force it a little bit farther into the corner, or you're going to be able to feel a little bit more comfortable behind another truck. I think it definitely could have a big play, and I think Chris Smith, he kind of lagged back that last run, was running about the middle of the pack. And I gotta maybe think that was why. Maybe he was trying to preserve those left sides, because for all the first run before our first caution, he was duking it out at the front and looked to be one of our strongest contenders that could be there at the end of the race.
Will be interesting to see, as we've seen some various strategies, whether it's saving or getting fresh sets or hanging around, getting that track position up at the front. We've seen a little bit of everything here tonight. As we've seen a couple of cautions as well. That's where what we're coming out of here right now. Rye Jones, Clay Sampson, Braxton DeWeese, Robert Probst, Kenneth Gallman in the top 5. We see Greg O'Berry, who's, like you said earlier, Scott, can make a lot out of nothing at these super speedways. I mean, he has literally been, front to back to front. Ellis Thomas back in the top 10 here. That 38 truck running 7th. Chris Smith been a factor all night long. And that 28 machine, Jacob Phillips, Steve Vest in the top 10 right now. It's so hard to sit here and look at the running order and say for sure who you think's going to be there on the final lap, on the final stretch, because the racing's just been that close. A little bit of bump in there, a little checking up. 55.
I don't need to see what we saw last time with Scotty Sobczak going into the grass off turn 4.
Just a little love tap on that one, but it's just another part of the race you have to factor in. I'm sure they love that we're catching these at a track like Talladega and mentioning it on broadcast. Sorry, guys.
Oh yeah, they're so happy about it. Drivers love when the announcers point out their mistakes.
Hey man, once if God forbid they start going sideways and we got a story on our hands.
That's what I'm saying.
Thankfully, no harm, no foul as we get everybody formed back up here and looking for that green flag.
So, Rye Jones up at the front. Clay Sampson, since the initial pit stop, he's been dancing around the top 5, top 7 for about the past 20 laps or so. DeWeese, he's going to be back in 4th. He was pushing Robert Probst for quite a long time. Probst has been very good tonight. I think he's been really good at defending his line. When we've seen other lines come up at him, he's been very good at picking which lane to block and maintaining that control up front.
Yeah, he's been able to control the runs. He's been able to really take pushes well. As we've seen him up here in the mix, he always runs really well here on these super speedway tracks. I believe he won at Daytona earlier this year. I'm sure the chat will let me know if I'm incorrect, but I believe that is correct. Called that race earlier in the year. So a super speedway specialist. As we see this group getting ready to enter the restart zone, it's Rye Jones getting off to a good start here. Sampson trying to stay with him. We'll see how it goes as we have the bottom line. You see Deweese and Jones separating from the pack. There'll be opportunities for drivers to jump down. There goes Brobst getting out in front of Kenneth Gallman. A little bit of shuffling around. Oh, Deweese down onto the apron. Not able to hang on to it below the double yellow. He's going to have to rejoin the pack here. Maybe things just got a little too hot, didn't like what he saw, and jumped out before it got too helter-skelter. But that's a I'm hearing something on the driver headset about maybe some equipment issue for Deweese, perhaps. We'll dive more into that as we continue on, but it's Rye Jones and Sampson on an interesting first lap on the restart, coming back across the stripe.
Was a bit interesting. We got to wonder, we talked about the pushes under caution. Sampson, he's going to get heavy into the outside wall. Rest of the pack checks up. Chris Smith, he's going to go sideways. Plenty of trucks are sideways. We are back under caution once again. It all looked like a checkup. It started with Sampson on the outside of the second row.
Man, what an unfortunate series of events there. Saw that 7 truck just get a little bit of a tough push. Ends up going onto the wall. You see O'Berry as they come through the tri-oval here. A little bit of an off-center push. O'Berry ends up checking up, trying not to drive through the 7. Truck's checking up behind him. Caused the big wreck here. You see Chris Smith down, ripping through the grass here. Number of cars caught up as maybe the big one striking here at Talladega in the Lake Owen.
I would definitely say it's definitely the biggest one that we've had yet, and it's absolutely the worst when it happens right up front. It was O'Berry getting into the side of the 7 of Sampson, like you said, and then just a lot of trucks, a lot of drivers checking up behind them. Oh, it was so unfortunate. Chris Smith, we said it, he got some damage in that. Other drivers moving down and just trying to get out of the way, trying to avoid 71 of Gallman. I think he really got some of the worst of that, was just sitting in a terrible spot. Was able to ride through the grass and be all right, but it's just so unfortunate when you're just not a part of it and bam, it falls right into your lap.
Yeah, it's always those situations where you feel the most helpless as you see a wreck developing around you and nearby you. And if you pull out of line into the grass, you might be doomed. If you pull up, try to avoid a wreck or try to get away from a wreck one way or another, you might be doomed the same way. So everybody trying to keep their head screwed on straight here, get their way through. So we saw some trucks take damage. Be interesting to see. Interesting to see now as the front of the field is going to be reshaped by this wreck. But it's Rye Jones who's still out in front. Sampson, I guess, not really getting too beat up. Did end up hitting that wall, but was, kind of shuffled out of the way of the wreck that ended up happening behind him. It's Robert Brobst just won't go away in that 5 truck. He is just doing the most up here at the front of this field. Greg O'Berry, Kenneth Gallman. So those top 5 trucks, we've been talking about the same group of folks as we see Sampson now come down pit road, maybe getting some damage repaired. Steve Vest as well. 3 or 4 others. Braxton Deweese, a taker on pit road. Chris Smith, Sobzak. As we continue to see the field pace, we'll see just how long these drivers stay in pit road. Situations like this, you definitely want to come on and off as a group, depending on, we're not under green flag stops, but you definitely want to stay close to the drivers around you as we're getting ready to go back green here, depending on how much damage these trucks really have.
So, man, that is a really, really tough break for a lot of these drivers. I think we talked about it this league. So good at being clean and staying clean. Just at a place like Talladega, it's those little things that can stack up and lead to that domino effect, Sal, that just it falls into a lot of other drivers' laps. And nobody was doing anything wrong. Everybody was just right where they needed to be. Bam, one little misstep, and there we are, 8 drivers involved and with damage.
Yeah, damage and quite a bit of damage, varying levels here as you see them try to make their way off pit road. A few stragglers going to have a little bit more to contend with as their crews will get to work on those trucks, those respective trucks. As see them pacing down the backstretch here. That 91 truck, I'll tell you, once he got that track position, hasn't really been interested in giving it up. A great run to the front. Right along here as the catch-up game begins. Trying to get back to the field after getting some repair done. That's the 60 truck of Steve Vest.
So Vest, he was one involved in that Scott's number 60 car. Rye Jones, he's probably in the best position of anyone, was on that inside line and was able to stay out of it. Robert Brobst, he's going to stay clean and green as well. I think Chris Smith, that's really going to probably take him out of the fight for the lead, at least for now. We've got plenty of time. If we get another caution, maybe he'd be able to fix some more damage. But as we know, these trucks, especially the front nose and the rear spoiler, have to be in tip-top shape and at 100% accuracy to be able to keep up the pace and enough pace to run at the front and battle for the lead.
Well, that's the big question now, Scott, I think, is as we're pacing around here, everybody getting repair done and figure themselves out. Is this the last caution we're going to see? Lap 49 of 69. Are we going to see more with 20 laps to go? You have to think that incident not really caused by any type of escalated aggression in the field, just an unfortunate situation where a push goes wrong, a pretty standard push goes wrong. I'm interested to see if the aggression steps up here and if these drivers start to make some moves and maybe by happenstance we see another yellow.
I think it's definitely possible. I think the closer we get to the end of this race, I think the more that energy will amp up. And now we're within 20 to go. So we've just seen a big crash. Sometimes drivers say, or people say, oh, when you see a big crash like this and we're not right at the end, you might see drivers calm down. I don't know, especially when it comes to the iRacing service. I think everyone is very tactful and very, I think they place their trucks where they need to, when they need to, and are very careful about it. But it is still iRacing. At the end of the day, you don't got to pay for these trucks at the end of the day. And when you put them on the truck, well, they go back to the iRacing garage, not your own.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see how carefree some of these drivers are with some of the aggression that they're going to have to, some of them will have to push to put themselves toward the front. Again, these drivers race each other really respectfully each and every week. You know, Talladega is a place where things happen, but typically everybody keeps the body panels on these things week after week, despite the tracks that we travel to here on the schedule. So be interesting to see as we come by this time. I believe the pace car will come off. There it goes. Back down to its home on pit road. These boys are going to get themselves lined up, figured out, and ready to rock and roll here as they come through the tri-oval. That restart zone right in front of the fans. Rye Jones, Robert Brobst, sending us off into lap number 50. 20 laps to go, 19 laps to go.
This could get dicey. DeWeese, he's going to pull up out of line after running outside of the top 20. And we're seeing already a big gap within some of the drivers in this field. We lost a couple through that big incident, so now this could really change the fight at the front. Robert Brobst, Evan Pienta, Rye Jones, they're all still up there. But this is going to allow some other people to maybe get in the fight.
Yeah, interesting to see the 8 truck slide back to the rear of the field. Not sure if he's got some damage he's been working on there, or if he said, you know, I'm going to gamble on that caution coming back around here. Maybe I'll just ride around and take my chances, in another 18 laps as we see everybody giving each other a little push and a shove. Hasn't been too bad just yet. We see James Danforth back up here in the mix as well. That 88 truck, Carlisle Napa Tool Scheme. We saw him early on in this one, had used that top line to make his way to the front. However, he's gotten there this time. It's working out for him as he's in the top 4. Some new fresh face as well as 22 at John Anthony. Shouldn't say a fresh face. He's been up here toward the front earlier in the race. But the comers and goers here all night long. He's coming back toward the front again. So we see Johnny Rapp as well in that top line. Just everybody trying to get that little extra edge as we roll on here at Talladega.
We roll right along. 18 laps to go, coming to 17. It's Robert Brobst back up at the front once again, but Pienta, we've seen him hanging out around the top 5, a little bit out of the top 5, but I think this is the first time, Sal, we're seeing him fight at the front. Let's see what he's got. He's been helped by Danforth all night long. They've been 2 partners holding together, and look at this. Third line roaring back to life. Ellis Thomas leading that, and the truck that was just involved in most recent incident of Steve Vest, he's giving him the pushes.
Yeah, Ellis Thomas, Steve Vest working together. That top line getting a great run of speed off the exit of turn 2. You see drivers in that middle lane opting to jump up. It's Vest, it's Chris Smith, it's Jacob Phillips, Jimmy Moore back there, and O'Berry pushing them all from the rear of that top line. A lot of fast trucks up there at the top. Just going to have to hold a strong wheel as they get a good run up. They're going to put this middle lane in the sucker hole. You're going to see them all start to slide on by. That's going to put Ellis Thomas in a position here. He's going to be leading this race here just not too long of a time if they can keep it straight.
If they can keep it straight, it's all about momentum in this game, being able to keep the truck nice and pretty, holding a pretty wheel like we say. But it is so difficult to do that. I mean, super speedway racing is not one of the things I am very great at doing because it's just a whole different level, Sal. I think you said you enjoy calling these races so much. I enjoy calling them because, boy, in the seat, I'm much better up here than I am down there.
I end up having to go outside and, smoke a cigarette after one of these races because it is, it gets the heart rate going and just makes you feel some type of way because fate can twist and things can change for you in the blink of an eye. A lap ago, I said Ellis Thomas might be leading this race. Well, that didn't quite work out the way he thought. Now everybody's pulling away on the bottom line. So, for myself at least, I know anytime I've ever raced super speedways, I'm one of those drivers who sits in the back till the very end. You're pacing. You're not pacing, but you're racing here, to fight to keep yourself in a good position to be there with 10 to go. We're at 15 to go now. So as we've talked all evening about aggressive moves and when is it time and when does the switch get flipped? When do you see drivers say, okay, I'm willing to work with whoever I can. We're going to try to do something here to make a run, to give ourselves a chance. I think you're getting into that window here in the next handful of laps to get that run to the finish. Usually the last 10, usually the last 8 laps, you start to see those moves materialize as we get into the latter stages. But I'll tell you what, if I'm Robert Brobst right now, I got a great pusher in Rye Jones behind me up here at the front. Gallman, somebody else too, who's been a part of this group all evening long. They're just going to want to keep it together, make sure that top line doesn't get the chance to form back up, and just kind of try to drive off into the sunset. I'm not sure how that's going to work out, but they're gonna do their best.
They're going to do their darndest. And I do think Robert Brobst is in one of the best positions. We mentioned it before that most recent caution. I think Brobst is one of the best at defending up front, and it's a lot easier when you have just one lane to defend behind you rather than 2 or 3. Now, very easy to think about Rye Jones behind him. Maybe he tries to make the move up high, and maybe the 71 of Kenneth Gallman will follow with them. So that's something you got to be worried about. Like, here comes a run. Rye Jones going to stick with the 5, of course, but at any moment, Rye Jones could decide to do something different.
Yeah, really tough for those guys up at the front to make a big change because that top line is just not getting the speed they need to give Rye Jones the opportunity to jump out of that line. There's nothing there behind him if he does. So they're kind of stuck in this, it's like Friday afternoon traffic on 77 right now as everybody just trying to make it work. As you see a third lane develop here, Pienta and company got tired of waiting. That Ford truck of Greg O'Berry, who we've seen be really fast here tonight, gets passed up on by 3 trucks. A little further back there as well. Ellis Thomas, I believe that's Ellis Thomas, jumps down to the bottom next to that 4 truck, says, okay, everybody's starting to move around now. Put yourself in a position you can be competitive and get a good run up to the end here. Still too early to tell where these big runs are going to come from late in the race, but you're starting to see some symptoms of maybe some big action coming up.
Well, and let's not forget, O'Barry in the number 4 car, he was the causation of that most recent accident with the 7 of Clay Sampson. So he got an end-of-line penalty. So he's trying to work his way all the way from the back up towards the front. He was one of the best about being able to make moves. He was with his partner of Jimmy Moore. Now Jimmy Moore has just gone ahead of him up on the outside. He's decided to push the 38 of Thomas.
They're going to continue to push as that 4 truck full of speed. See them back there. Again, the top line just won't go away, that 3rd lane. Yeah, big wiggle there. Taking a hot shot. Believe that was the 55 of Pienta, the 88 of Danforth, right? That was a big shot. Hold on to that one. Never a dull moment here as we come through the truck oval of Talladega. See Johnny Rapp now. Woo!
Johnny
big
Rapp.
Move.
Johnny Rapp, that was very, very close. He was with Randy Gross trying to push him as we got a big wreck behind. Another one, forced caution of the day. It looks like everyone's able to go straight. It was O'Barry. We were just talking about him making moves from the back, and he's into the rears once again.
That was wild. Also, great saves here. 2 fantastic saves for those 2 drivers, but we'll get a look at what happened a little closer up here as O'Barry trying to fight back to the front, sees a little bit of daylight. A little bit of a squeeze there. You see the 44 tries to get out of the way. That's such a tough spot to get kind of 1 foot in, 1 foot out. Caught. The 44, O'Toole able to kind of steer clear down onto that apron as quickly as he could. No spinners. Probably going to want a little bit of a fresh set of tires if you went for a slide, but no harm, no foul. Could have been a lot worse from Talladega.
Could have been really bad. And I think that was the least amount of incident that we've had tonight. And I think everything is good. All the drivers are clean, and it's just a little reset, and it's going to be a short shoot to the finish.
Yeah, just a little reset. Everything going to work out here just the way folks wanted, hopefully. These leaders sure working out the way they're hoping it will. Robert Brobst, Rye Jones, Kenneth Gallman, Nathan Gentry back up in the mix here. Kenneth Gallman as well. 2 Kenneth Gallmans here tonight. That is not a misprint on your screen. All these drivers up here at the front, they want to hang on to this track position, something fierce. Nathan Gentry, one who's kind of played the pit strategy a little bit different in that number 1 truck here tonight. Back up in the top 5, Randy Gross, John Anthony, Evan Pienta, Jacob Phillips, and Johnny Rapp in that 52 truck round out the top 10 for the moment. We'll get some laps in here, pace around Talladega. All these drivers, you have to think, sitting behind the wheel, thinking of just exactly what they want to do. How do they want to approach the final 10 laps, less than 10 laps once we go back green, to try to give themselves a real fighting chance here. Leader's going to want to obviously keep doing what they've been doing, but there's a lot of fast trucks throughout the field here right now that have been battling for runs to get just to the rear bumpers of the top 5 at the moment, the last handful of laps in these runs. And, I mean, if you're just tuning in now, buckle in, because you are here for the best part of this Talladega race. These drivers are going to be throwing it out, everything they've got, and the kitchen sink out to try to make it work. A lot of big movers here tonight as well. Be interesting to see how Greg O'Barry tries to rally back. We've seen that truck be really fast all night long. Obviously involved in that last incident, just getting getting caught out in a little bit of a difficult spot there with O'Toole. So be interesting to see if that 4 truck can make a run back to the front. But there's only one way to know, and that's why we go racing. We're getting ready for it here in just a handful.
Well, and it'll be 7 laps to go when we come back double file to take the green. It's going to be a short shoot. And so, Sal, it could get dicey. I think we were talking about when we had our last caution with 20 to go that sometimes if you're in iRacing or if you're in real life, one or the other way, some people might calm down. Others might say, we're in the sim. Let's just go for it. I think we did see some calmness out of the drivers, which I think we expect a lot here out of these truck drivers, that they are, we'll give them their round of applause as always, that they are always so clean. I think most of our incidents tonight have just come from those little tiny mistakes, just little choices and differences in judgments, and nothing big by any margin. But I think now we're getting close to what we'd call hammer time.
It is hammer time. Elbows out, make it work, do whatever you have to do to get to the front and be that truck that's just a nose ahead coming across the stripe. Be interesting to see as teammates try to work with one another. How long do you choose to hang on and work with the guy around you or behind you or in front of you to make this a good run back to the start-finish line? You don't have to lead all the laps here tonight, just the one that matters. It'll be interesting to see how some of these drivers position themselves to do exactly that.
And for Brobst, this would be a deal where it would be so upsetting if you did not finish this thing off. You've led so many laps. I mean, once we got Brobst to the front, we really haven't seen him run out of the top 5 at all or drop outside of the top 5. And for the most of this race, he has been leading that front line and been able to defend from others. See Rye Jones, he'll pull up to the top side. He's been kind and working with Robert Brobst for a lot of these laps, but this might be the time that Rye Jones says, I'm going to go a different direction.
I think if you're in a position to have a truck that's going to run well at the front, you got to put it there, and there's no time like the present with 7 laps once we go back green. Be interesting to see, though, as we've got a new combination of pushers and pushies. As Rye Jones lines up in front of Nathan Gentry, Gallman there behind Brobst. You know, you get comfortable with those who are pushing you, especially at the front. You know when to expect the bump. You get in a little bit of a rhythm with a partner here at drafting tracks, and when you start to shake things up and move around a little bit to give yourself that chance, those friendships can dissipate in a hurry, and you end up having to make some new ones in a really short amount of time. Sometimes it can work. Hopefully you're familiar with those around you. Other times it can spell disaster. So be interesting to see exactly how they all want to work together here. That's always the biggest thing in this race with this league, is less about the big one, less about strategy on pit road, more about who's going to work with each other to get those big runs to the end.
You know what I just noticed? We have 2 Kenneth Gallmans.
Yes, there are 2. That is not a typo. There are 2 Kenneth Gallmans.
We mentioned it. We mentioned it 1 week ago, and then one of the Gallmans was not here, and yet here we are. Both the Gallmans, they're in the top 5.
Seeing double in the top 5. The Gallmans in the mix, but it's Robert Brobst, Rye Jones working so well with one another throughout this race. They line up door to door into the restart zone. 7 laps to go here from Talladega to decide a winner. And it's Brobst getting out to a great restart, and Rye Jones takes the opportunity, slides right back down behind him. Gallman, Gentry, the top 4, separating just a little bit as we see some 2x2 racing behind these drivers. These 4 are going to want to take the opportunity, stay nose to tail, and drive off just as far and as hard as they can. You see Rye Jones pushing that 5 truck just as hard as he can take it through the backstretch and into turns 3 and 4.
It's like those top 4 had a plan. They knew exactly they wanted to all get in line together and go push out ahead of everybody else. They are ahead of the rest of the field, as most of the rest are 2x2. It's Randy Gross leading that outside line. He's now outside of the 70 Kenneth Gallman, not the 71 Kenneth Gallman, not to be confused with the other. 70 of Kenneth Gallman, the orange Reese's car down the low lane, but Randy Gross being pushed by Evan Pienta. They're trying to make up some ground. When will we see when will we see that third line develop, or will it develop?
I think you're going to see it happen here in a couple of laps as that top line tries to put something together. If we don't see them get a run here off the next corner or 2, I wouldn't be stunned if we saw a Johnny Rapp or a James Danforth try to jump out and create an opportunity, because those cars out there in first and second are getting further and further away as Robert Brobst and Rye Jones continue to work well with one another. I mean, it's just a decision you have to make, a conscious decision you have to make. Do you want to finish the race, or do you want to win the race? And if I'm in this top 5 right now, I'm pretty happy, sitting pretty, trying to get a run to the finish here, get my points, get a good day. But it's all about winning. So it'll be interesting to see if drivers are thinking long term in terms of what they're going to do the rest of the year here, get some points, or are they going to throw it all out there and try to go for checkers?
Randy Gross, we just mentioned him. He was sitting about 7th place, leading that outside line. Well, now he's 20th. He got shuffled out of line all the way to the back, and he is nearly to the back of all of the lead lap cars. Braxton DeWeese, 23rd, is the last driver on the lead lap. But you said it. Will I go for points, or will I go for the win? Normally you can do both, but so easily at Talladega is it that you don't end up getting both. Sometimes likely when you're going and pushing for the win, a big crash and develop on that last lap, you could go from 2nd all the way to 20th. Jacob Phillips in the 56, saw him in that Ram. He got pushed out of line as well. So easy to get shuffled out south.
Yeah, Pienta there had a big run of speed, and Phillips not quite able to hang on to it up there at the front, ends up sliding up to the top line, and back to the rear he goes as we see Pienta and Rapp and Danforth working together a little bit here. This is the most momentum we've seen over the last 3 or 4 laps from this second lane. You see a couple of drivers getting a little bit helter-skelter toward the rear. That's the 22 truck just holding on to it. My goodness, as Rapp will continue to push Pienta. They've got a run coming.
Pienta and Rapp working really well together right here through the tri-oval. It can get real dicey. Rapp had to jump to the outside. He was getting pushed by Danforth, and he was about to push on the right rear. It would have put Pienta in a really bad position. Rapp had to jump up to that 3rd lane. Luckily, Ellis Thomas is up there, so now he's going to have to regroup, and he's going to have to lead this line. Thomas has been a good pusher for most, though.
Yeah, Johnny Rapp, the sacrificial lamb there, unfortunately, as he had a great run, was pushing Pienta. Might turn out to be a better move than he thought, though. Gets shuffled out, but grabs the top line. There's a group here that are forming up, trying to get a good run of speed. Ellis, like you said, a good pusher. He's going to get Johnny Rapp clear of the 55 of Pienta. That's Sobczak behind Thomas. They're going to try to do something, work together in that 3-car group, but it's still Robert Brobst and Rye Jones at the front, just holding that wheel and doing everything they can to bring it home in one piece. They're going to let these drivers behind them figure out a way to, as we see a little bit of door banging back there. That's the Chris Smith and the 7 of Sampson.
It is getting squirrely, Sal. Their drivers making a little bit more desperate moves right now. You saw Johnny Rapp try to get in front of Sobczak. Now we're 4 wide. Steve Best on the inside. Barry is there. He's not clear of the 6. That got real close with Brad Compton. 4 wide again. Johnny Rapp on the outside. Ellis Thomas through the middle.
Oh my goodness. Able to get out of that scot-free is unbelievable as we see them all figure it out. Still a little bit of 3 wide racing back there with the 4 and the 52 as they continue around here. That was tight quarters there for a moment. Who is that up at the top there? Is that Jimmy Moore? Yes, Jimmy Moore.
He is looking really squirrely up there. Scotty Sobczak is screaming, please pick a lane. We got to make time to move.
Do something. We're running out of time on the final lap. This is it.
We're out of time.
Big run here on the bottom. They're wrecking on the backstretch. Talk about making moves and getting runs. A handful of trucks wrecking into that inside wall. Not going to bring out the caution here. White flag has waved. These boys are going to race it back out. A lot of racetrack still. All the way through turns 3 and 4 and all the way through the tri-oval. You see Ryan Jones decide he's going to jump out of line there. He's been pushing all afternoon. He wants to go for the checkers himself. He clears Robert Brobst for the lead. Robert Brobst going to try to cross him back up, but no, not enough time. Rye Jones makes the move, executes flawlessly, and gets the win here at Talladega. Wow, what a finish!
Could not believe it. We'll have to see it again, but Rye Jones knew exactly what he wanted to do. We thought earlier maybe he wanted to lead. He said, nope, I want to sit in second right behind Robert Brobst and make my move when it counts, and he did just that. Kenneth Goldman in the 71 right behind. He's getting a bit of an air bubble push, not a direct push. Had a great run out of turn 4, jumps to the outside and just had enough momentum on his own to be able to clear in front of Brobst, and then at this point it was over besides Brobst turning him. Rye Jones, what a move.
Big move to finish this race here tonight. Can't feel good if you're Robert Brobst, but leading a ton of laps here tonight. That 5 truck coming home in P2 won't feel good in the moment, but a huge points day for that 5. Nathan Gentry putting himself in P3 to finish here right now. Unofficial results will get you the full rundown here in just a moment. And we'll get to talk to some of these drivers, so don't go anywhere. Pole winner this evening was Chris Smith. Ellis Thomas had the fastest lap. Robert Brobst led the most at 29, but it was Rye Jones for Payday Racing coming home with the win. Rye Jones, Robert Brobst, Nathan Gentry, Kenneth Gallman in the 71, doing everything he could. Hung around in the top 5 most of the day. Brad Compton, Kenneth Gallman in the 70, Jimmy Moore, James Danforth, Chris Smith, and Evan Pienta, your top 10 here from Talladega.
Pienta was one of those last ones holding on. There was a big crash that we saw it on the backstretch, and then in turn 4, other of these drivers that we're about to name were involved in one or both of those crashes. Johnny Rapp finishes 11th. Scotty Sobzak finishes 12th. Ellis Thomas got collected there in turn 3. He'll finish 13th. Paul Thomas 14th. John Anthony, saw him go for a spin on the back straightaway. He'll round out the top 15. Then it was Braxton DeWeese. Saw him hang out of the back for most of those last couple of laps. Finishes 16th. Sampson, he was running in the top 10 right there in the end, and it just all went wrong. Finishes in 17th. Jacob Phillips, Steve Vest, and Chase Berry round out the top 20.
21st is Randy Gross. 22nd, we've got Ryan Hinkle. Greg O'Berry, who had a strong night here. Again, back to front, front to back. Really was able to run the table a lot of the night here. Ends up coming home in 23rd. Patrick O'Toole in the 44 truck finishes 24th. Brandon Ayers, big knock for him early on in this race. Puts him at a disadvantage. 25th for him here tonight. Brian Brobst, 26th. Tom Wink in 28th. Aaron Smith got caught up that wreck really early on. Unfortunately, 27th for him. Zach Mitchell, another one, finishes in 29th. That rounds out the field as we've got Rye Jones doing a little bit of landscaping on the front stretch grass here at Talladega, enjoying a big win. Took a lot of patience out of that 91 truck here tonight, just rolling around, pushing that 5 for as long as he could stand it, just waiting for the opportunity, the right time to strike, and the right time it was as he made that move coming through the exit of turn 4. Had a great run, gets the job done as he'll pull up, get some photos taken here, and enjoy the victory. We'll get the top 3 up here in the booth in just a moment, so stick around.
Hey partner, I'm Barry, your pocket crew chief, the very first AI-powered mechanic for sim racing. Got a car that's a little loose or tight? Just tell me how it's handling, and I'll whip up instant setup recommendations just for you. Want me to get even more precise? Snap a picture of your setup, and I'll fine-tune it to perfection. And hey, I'm not just about giving orders. I'll explain why every adjustment matters, so you can really understand your ride. I'll even teach you the science behind the setup. Ever wondered why the track bar is so important? I've got the answer. With Pocket Crew Chief, I'll make you smarter, faster, and race ready. So what are we waiting for? Let's build to win.
All right, we're back from break here. We've got Nathan Gentry. We went down to the pits and dragged him up here into the booth. A big run for Nathan tonight. I'll tell you what, that was some real racecraft you were showing there at the end of this one, just hanging in there. What did it look like from behind the wheel of that one truck for you tonight?
Well, at times it was pretty hectic, and then at the end there, I was surprised that we were just cruising along single file. But I'm glad we were.
On that final restart, we saw, the top four, you being a part of that group for, the latter stage of this race. Did you guys come up with a plan to all try to get single file, or did it just kind of work out that way on that restart as we saw you guys just kind of take off and fall in line and start to leave some of the side-by-side racers behind?
Yeah, I'm not sure. I just think we all got a really good jump on those guys. It was a really good start for the four of us, and Rye got out front, and we all fell in line there and rode it out.
Yeah, and it gave you guys a great run of speed, brings you home with a P3 here tonight. Is there anybody out there you want to thank for this run? Anybody who's watching at home, cheering you on?
Yeah, I'd just like to thank all the sponsors, Jimmy and the Overheard podcast, Phillips Wraps, James Danforth Photos, all the Wednesday night partners, Goon Squad, Brops Enterprises, Evan Pienta Designs. And I want to shout out my second grade teacher who said I'd never mount anything. Just look at me now, Miss Mason Beck.
I love that. I love that. That second grade teacher didn't know what she was talking about, Nathan, because you're coming home P3 here in the Wednesday Night League of SRL here at Talladega. We appreciate you taking some time with us. Congratulations on a great run. And we'll throw it over to Scott here. He'll be with Robert Probst.
Robert Probst, we'll bring him on in. And the one of the Probst brothers that finished tonight, it was a bit of a different story for you, Robert. It was a big different story. You led the most laps tonight, but yet it was so tight there at the end.
It was cousins actually, but anyway.
Yeah, I figured. My best guess was brother.
Yeah, we were coming down to it, and I was watching the mirror, and Rye was like practicing getting runs. And I was like, he's gonna make a move eventually. I just don't know when. And then he finally pulled the trigger, and he had a good enough run, and I was like, we could wreck each other, and I might be able to get away with it and get the win. But I'm more than content to just get a podium and have a good night.
When you see him practicing those moves, you're thinking, I know he's going to make it at some point. What's your mindset there? Are you thinking, I just have to be riding in my mirror this whole time? I mean, it's just a game of not knowing.
Pretty much, yeah. You keep one eye on the mirror and one eye on the track. Kind of like he used to be in a lot of Adam Sandler movies, the guy with the eyes that point in different directions. But no, but you just watch the mirror and keep an eye on for when he's getting runs. And those last couple laps, if you think you can make the block, you send it. If you think you can make the block without getting wrecked, let me rephrase that. And I didn't know if I could make the block without getting wrecked, so I tried to side draft him, and he had enough of a run to just drop down in front of me there coming to the line. And I got to admit, I've had a couple of rough weeks, so I'm more than happy to have a podium.
Definitely. It's a great run. It's a well-deserved run. I think you were one of the drivers that you could say you could maybe deserve to win, but it just did not come quite at the end of the day. Robert, anyone you'd like to thank tonight?
I mean, first off, history aside, got to dedicate it to Grandma, who passed away last week. Got the text about her passing, and then 10 minutes later, I saw the news about Kyle Busch. So it was a rough half hour.
Yeah,
for a racing fan.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
But family drama aside, we'll dedicate this one to her. And then we got to run down the sponsor list. Thank all those guys that support the league. You got Jimmy Moore with his UNO podcast. It's the UNO Podcast Truck Series. It's presented by Slingshot Racing League. After all, I myself am one of the sponsors. Evan Pienta Designs with his paint schemes as well. Goon Squad. They run our merch website. So if anybody wants to pick up some Slingshot Racing League gear, the goonsquad.com, then you can click around on that a little bit. And you can get yourself a Slingshot Racing League rocks glass with the logo on the side. Drink your whiskey and appreciate the league with which you enjoy watching and or racing with.
Well, Robert, we appreciate you, and we're happy you got a great run tonight. And sorry it wasn't a victory, but happy with a P2.
I am very content.
All right, Sal.
All right, y'all have a good night.
Hey, you too,
Oh, no.
Robert.
I thought you were kicking me out.
No, hey, you stay as long as you want. I'm going to send it to Mr. Sal because he's going to chat with our winner.
Oh, okay. I got you all handled with the finances. I'm gonna move on to the chats.
Yeah, we're all paid up. It's all good now.
You go on ahead. We'll see you, Mr. Probst.
Yep. See you.
All right, we'll drag Rye Jones. I think he's done rearranging the grass on the front stretch. That was a heck of a celebration there at the end. I tell you what, man, you had the patience is a virtue. You look like Mother Teresa out there tonight, just staying in line behind that 5 truck for a long, long time. I mean, it was a long time looking at that cow bumper, that Chick-fil-A car, but you made that move at the right moment. What was the decision? Was this a plan the whole way? Did you know you were going to try to make this move?
Well, yes and no. So, I mean, first of all, shout out to everybody for the most part. This was an absolutely fun race, but I was before the last caution, I was in second place behind Robert, and I was like, all right, well, I'm in second. I'm going to try this thing where every time I was going into the corners, I was laying off, kind of like what they did in the old Gen 6 cars, and I was building a really great run. And I was like, man, this is kind of working. And so I would get on Robert and I'd bump him and I'd push him, and the whole bottom lane would kind of start following. And I was like, man, okay, I think I figured out how to manipulate the bottom line and make it work better than the outside lines. I don't know how true that is. I don't know if the outside lines just couldn't build runs. I couldn't really see it, but that's just kind of how it felt. And so I was like, all right, well, I'm just gonna keep doing this for the rest of the race until the very end. And the caution came out. I was like, well, all right, I'm gonna have to start on the outside. And on the restart, it got a little jumbled, and Robert went, but the 71 kind of didn't, and they broke connection. I was like, oh man, okay. I'm just gonna jump back down to the bottom and just push him, just like what I was doing before. And it just started kind of working again, and the outside lanes just couldn't build enough momentum to catch back up. And so I kept telling myself, I'm like, all right, if they catch back up, I'm gonna make it. I'm gonna run to the top whenever they get there, or if they're close, if they're even somewhat remotely close, I will do it on the front stretch coming to the white flag. And we're coming to the white flag, and there's nobody there. And I'm like, all right, if I do it, I'm gonna get left stranded. And so I was like, you know what, I'm gonna hang on. And me, I'm probably the least patient person in this field, but I was just like, I gotta hang on. At the best case scenario, if it doesn't work, I can get top 3. And that's really all I wanted. I haven't had a podium all year, or all season, I should say, excuse me. And God forbid it came at this place. And so we came down to coming out of 3 and 4. The outside lines still weren't there, and I was like, all right, going into 3, I just checked up just a little bit more than I did the other laps. And I thought Kenneth or somebody was going to try and get around me, and they never did, because they didn't have the momentum. I guess I was just doing a good job of it. I really don't know. And just had to run off the 4, and I'm like, all right, well, got to take it. And shout out to Robert for not wrecking me, and I guess shout out to myself for not wrecking him, because that could have been really bad. But I saw him come up, and I was like, all right, I got to keep going up. And with the amount of momentum I had we touched, it would have been a lot closer, but we never touched, and I kept having the momentum. And Grizz, or Brandon Ayers, who got in the wreck earlier, he was kind of helping spot, and he said, you're clear. I was sending it down to the bottom, and I just held on, and I held my breath for probably the last half lap there, and That was just awesome. I mean, shout out to everybody. I hope that put on a good show because that was a lot of fun.
Tell you what, we were holding our breath up here when it was all unfolding too off of 4. I mean, you guys put on an absolutely fantastic show here tonight. I think, as you mentioned it, and we commented on it briefly, but the respect you guys have for each other, not to be more physical on the racetrack with these trucks especially coming on a final lap, is something that you don't see often in a lot of lobbies or in a lot of leagues. So kudos to you guys for racing it out and giving us that show here tonight. Awesome racing. Is there anybody you want to thank here tonight? I mean, a big win for you. We know how much it means to you. It's going to be up, it's going to put you in a good place in terms of collecting some points coming out of Talladega, leading into the rest of the year.
Yeah, I gotta thank all the friends and family that decided to tune in and watch tonight. I really appreciate it, and gotta thank you guys for putting on the show. I know you guys had some troubles a little bit, but I still can't wait to watch the replay. I know it's gonna be fun to rewatch. Gotta thank all the Payday teammates. Chase, Johnny, Jacob, Brandon. I'm sure I'm missing a couple. Justin when he shows up. Gotta thank the league admins for putting all this together and all the league sponsors. And I gotta thank this field. I know there was some mishaps today, but overall, the Slingshot Racing League, and even back when it was Spark, we just put on a great show, and we got a great group of guys that really try to race each other clean and full of respect. And I can't thank that enough. And all our hearts go out to the Busch family. I was racing, and I have the replay on my TV above, and I saw the lap 18 tribute, and it made me want to tear up just because of how much it meant to everybody. And I appreciate you guys for doing that. And I know everybody that was watching probably appreciated it too. So yeah, just a lot of fun, and thank you guys for doing this. Thank everybody that puts it together, and let's go next week, and let's go win Darlington.
All right. Rod Jones ready to roll next week into Darlington as we continue forward on this schedule Wednesday night in the trucks. Rye, congratulations again. We got a lot to look forward to, Scott. I mean, we're going to see some great racing here over the next few weeks. Darlington's a track, just lawless, it feels like, ripping the top, trying to make things work and get big runs. A lot to look forward to.
It's one of my favorites, and it makes me want to get behind the wheel, but I'll leave it up to these excellent truck drivers. It's going to be fun. I think it's so unique in its character, and it allows a special style of driving, and you put yourself right on the limit. Turn 2, watch out for that wall. It can jump out and bite you.
It can jump out and bite you, indeed. You're not going to want to miss it. Tune right back in here on the Slingshot Racing League, Slingshot TV, to catch all the action again on Wednesday night. Again, thinking of Kyle Busch and his family and the entire industry, as we're all kind of accepting the reality of a world without Kyle. Appreciate everybody being a part of that lap 18 tribute, and everybody just being so good about the way that they've remembered Kyle with the paint schemes and everything for this race, and I'm sure for future races as we continue on. On behalf of myself, Shy, Kobe Jordan behind the keys, making all the magic happen. We appreciate you all for tuning in, and we'll see you next week at Darlington.